Welcome in to the newest episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast. Glad to have you all here with us, joining us for episode 79 of the pod. And it is an exciting one because, or I guess more so a bittersweet one, because we are discussing the final episode of the final season of The Bad Batch that we just got finished watching only about 12 hours ago at the time of this recording. So, what an episode it was. We're going to be discussing mainly that in today's episode. Excited to have you all along with us for that ride. Before we get into any of that, want to remind you that if you're not yet subscribed to the Hot Hangout channel on YouTube, definitely check us out over there for the video version of every podcast, as well as all of our reactions to the latest Star Wars shows, including our reaction to the season 3 finale of Bad Batch, which is up and available over on the Hot Hangout YouTube channel at this time. Additionally, you can contact us via email at hothangout@gmail.com with your Star Wars related thoughts, questions, or otherwise, and we'd love to showcase them here on the podcast. You can find the Hoth Hangout podcast anywhere you get your pods, including Spotify and Apple. And if you're listening on either of those platforms or any platform that allows you to leave a 5-star review, leave a 5-star review. We would appreciate it very much. And it also does allow the podcast to be more easily discovered by other folks as well who also love Star Wars. Additionally, you can find us on the socials, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, or X. You can find us at Hoth Hangout on each of those. And the Discord server for the Hoth Hangout community server is available in the show notes of today's episode below. Check it out. Again, the link will be available in the notes in the show notes of today's episode. Definitely check it out and head on over there. We want to tease a question. Normally we would do this leading into the next episode of the Bad Batch, but seeing as there are no longer new episodes of the Bad Batch, the question this week we're teasing is simply: will we even see the Bad Batch ever again? Whether it's an animation or live action, something to keep on the brain as you're listening to today's episode. Again, before we get into any of our Bad Batch discussion, Joey, what's going on, man? How are you doing coming off the season finale of The Bad Batch?
The emotions are still raw. We like you said, we just watched it maybe 12, 13 hours ago at the time of this. And yeah, I still loved what I saw. I'm very excited to talk about it today. And yeah, maybe just relive that entire episode because we got quite a bit of content to get through here. We were putting the notes together just before the recording here, and there's a lot of points we want to hit on. So we're gonna be here for a minute. So although we said we wanted to keep it under an hour for the remaining episodes of the Bad Batch back in episode, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of this season, I'm gonna guess we're not gonna get under that hour this time.
Yeah, and to be fair, we got like what twice as much actual runtime for the episode. So hence, if we make it under 90 minutes in today's episode, I'll consider that a success. But Gibbo right now is thinking, "Oh my gosh, 90 minutes."
Yep.
But yeah, we'll try to do it as quickly as we possibly can, without, of course, skipping out on anything worth noting. But it was a action-packed episode. Nearly, I think it was almost 52 minutes in length in total. So, like you mentioned, we've got a lot to talk about. So, we've just got a couple brief pieces of news and viewer comments to touch on before we move into our discussion of the finale of Bad Batch. One of the biggest pieces of Star Wars news coming out within the past week is this announcement, or rather, this, I think, minute long or so trailer that debuted for Star Wars Hunters, a game coming to iOS and Android, and I believe Nintendo Switch as well. This originally, I think, was announced like 4 years ago, and then it was just like radio silent on kind of, is this even coming out? Is it still in production? The comments I was reading on the post that the official Star Wars account made, people were saying, I forgot this was even supposed to be a thing, but more or less what it is, the way it's described, at least on the official Star Wars page, is that it is a team-based battle arena shooter. Now, I don't exactly understand how that is going to work on, mobile devices, but I'm definitely gonna download it. It comes out at the time of this recording in 3 days, the launch on June 4th. Are we picking this up and gonna be battling with one another on
Well,
on
June 4th is next month because we're in May right
Oh
now.
my gosh, Joey. I'm I'm so far,
You're
like, gone into the weeds with what month is which right now, and, like, it's a busy time of
Have you
year.
been busy? I don't remember.
June 4th, in my brain, I read that, and I was like, "June 4th equals May 4th." Sorry, 1 month and 3 days from now,
Yes.
this game comes out. Not to get people excited about the game coming out in 3 days. If you, just got excited there, hold your horses, you've got another 33 days to wait, not 3
Mhm.
days. But nonetheless, are you excited for the, release
Yeah,
of this
I mean, I'll
game?
give it a shot. I mean, we'll take a look at the trailer here in a sec, but yeah, I think we'll, you know, from what I saw, I did go into the Hunters, like, website a little bit, poked around, and it looks like originally, like you said, in 2021, there was, like, a trailer that said, "Coming soon in 2021, Star Wars Hunters."
Yeah,
And for people to have waited this long, I don't know. Hopefully we'll see. It looks fun. It looks very colorful. So yeah, let's take a look at the trailer here and see what this is all about.
do it. Also for our audio listeners, this is the part where we watch the video.
Welcome to Hunters of the Outer Rim. Thanks for joining us.
Coming to you from the arena on beautiful Vespara and only on ORSN.
I'm LX1.
And I'm Paz Vega. What a show we've got for you tonight. But first, let's revisit the final moments of last night's match.
We saw the Gundam versus Mudhorn in an epic game of control.
Just
Is that a
cool how many
droid
different
Jedi?
Yeah, it's cool how many different, characters they have in this game. There's one in here, it's hard to spot, but I'll try to point it out when it pops up. It's a really fun character.
Okay, well that's a cool character, like Sith-looking
Yeah.
assassin.
The young Sith was defeated.
Okay, the Sith.
Mudhorn took the victory. What a match that was.
Looks
It
like
reminds
the
me of,
internet is
like
starting to
Monday Night Football or okay, see the character in the front? The
Yes.
2 Jawas?
The Hunter
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Are they on top of each other?
There's 2 Jawas on like, one on top of the other's shoulders that you can play
Oh, yeah.
as.
You see on the left here as well.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I think that's from what I've read so far, that's kind of like the fan favorite for, uh, preferable character, favorite character going into
Nice.
this game. But yeah,
Interesting.
well, I mean, what do you think? It looks like kind of a different style. It certainly is well made. Obviously, it's Star Wars. It's going to be a trailer that really looks great. I don't know how this is going to play out in terms of like actually the practicality of the game if it's a mobile game,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I'm excited for it. What do you think?
I mean, I'll give it a shot. It kind of reminds me of not Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, but there's like a battle arena that
Mm,
there was from before. It was, gosh, maybe 4 years ago. That was a mobile game. But I'm interested. This is also coming on Switch, you said. So
yeah.
I don't know if there's any plans for PC or Xbox or any other consoles, because that's where you and I come in on the PC gaming side of things. But yeah, I mean, I'll give it a shot, see how it looks. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like super excited for it, but it's Star Wars. I'm gonna give it a shot for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Hoth Hangout live stream playing mobile games. You never know. Never say no. It could happen. Let us know down in the comments of the video version of the podcast or anywhere on the socials what your thoughts are. If you're excited for Star Wars Hunters, again, coming 33 days from now, not 3 days from now, releasing on June 4th on iOS, Android, and Nintendo Switch. Check it out. Coming soon. The other small piece of news we did want to touch on, there were 2 brand new, I don't want to call them trailers because I don't think they're not full length. One of them is about half a minute, the other one is about a minute. But 2 brand new clips for Tales of the Empire released within the past, one of them today, I believe, and the other one I think 3 days ago. So, one of them is called Revenge and the other one is called Opportunity. So I think we're gonna check out the Revenge one first, I believe, which is the 30-second version. Again, lots of, videos today.
Where's the
Sorry
Jedi
to our
hiding?
audio
There
listeners.
is no Jedi. Prove yourselves worthy, and you may join us. Attack!
Little scene with the Grand Inquisitor and Varys fighting.
Imperial favor.
Revenge.
Tales of the
Oh,
Empire
Vader, nice.
Yeah, I
lay
think that's a
forth
new
on
clip of
Disney
Vader
Plus.
right there.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if we've
definitely.
seen that. A lot of it is stuff we'd already seen. And then, other than that, I think the fight scene between the Inquisitor and Barriss, we got kind of an
A little
extended
bit
look at
more,
that
yeah.
there. Yeah. So not a ton new other than the fact and I think also the Inquisitor who recruited Barriss, we saw her ignite her lightsaber in that
Right.
village of people at the beginning. I think that was also new footage,
And I
but
think she was the Inquisitor in the Kenobi series.
yes. And now this one is the
Stand
opportunity
up,
one, the 70-second
Barris
trailer
Offee.
or clip. Here
And
she
there she
is.
is again.
Yeah.
Lynn?
Lynn.
Lynn.
I don't go by that name anymore.
Oh.
Things have changed.
What
So
does
maybe
the
she
Jedi
used to be a
Council want?
Jedi.
I am not here on behalf of the Council.
Oh.
You are serving a life sentence for crimes against the Republic. But at your trial, you accused the Jedi of murder and treason. It seems you were right after all.
Huh.
The Jedi
Huh.
tried to assassinate Chancellor Palpatine.
What does this mean for me?
It means I'm here to present you with an opportunity, Barriss.
Oh, is that the end? I was
Oh,
so
that's
I
really
was
cool, yeah.
so
I
I
felt like
was
we were
so
actually watching it.
yeah. I honestly didn't expect to get, like, a scene. I thought it was going to
Yeah, yeah.
be I mean, the first one was, kind of a montage and compilation. I thought that's what the second one was gonna be too.
Right. Oh, man, that
Uh,
that drew me in, like, real quick.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's also a lot of cool new information too, like that I guess former Jedi, now we know or maybe I don't know if we knew that for sure or not before this, but I guess her name was Lynn.
Mhm.
Obviously, doesn't go by that anymore, but, it sounded like she was even on the council 'cause
Yeah, or
Barriss when
something related to the council, yeah.
right. Barriss, when she walked in, was like, "Are you here on behalf of" like, Barriss has probably been locked in the cell, doesn't even know the Jedi have fallen. I think that's where we're
Right.
gonna open up with her story, so,
Pretty cool. I'm
yeah,
excited now. That got me excited for sure.
yeah. This is and again, back to kind of the previous announcement, when I said June 4th, I think the reason in my mind I was thinking May 4th is because this comes out on May 4th, which is 3 days away from now. Super, super exciting. This is arguably I mean, we talked about it in last week's episode, but we talked about Tales of the Empire, versus everything else that's coming out soon, like Acolyte and maybe even, stuff beyond that and kind of what you'd be most excited for and honestly like this to me feels the most exciting at least what's coming very soon so
Right.
yeah only 3 days away hard to believe
It's the proximity thing too. I mean, it's
right
coming, like, very, very soon, so of course we're gonna be more excited about it, and with these 2 stories that we're gonna be able to enjoy and learn more about these 2 characters that I mean, Barriss obviously was somebody for a long time, kinda
Mhm.
wondered what happened with her. With Morgan Elsbeth, just very recently, we've discovered who she is, and, we turn around and learn more about her, so yeah, I'm pretty excited for, what's to come this weekend.
yeah and you and I will be watching these I believe our reactions will come out probably sometime Monday so these will be released it would be Saturday our reactions probably will be available sometime Monday on the Hoth Hangout YouTube channel to each of the episodes of this show. So, yeah, lots to be excited about here. Only 3 days away. Happy early May the 4th, by the way, to everyone. Happy
Right, yeah.
early Star Wars Day. It's
It's
just
gonna
on
be
the.
May. That's
It's
what
gonna be
Justin
May.
Timberlake Day.
Yes. Oh, is today officially recognized as Justin Timberlake Day?
It should be.
We have deemed it so now, but yeah, lots of cool new clips, lots of awesome new information in those two we just watched there, and excited to watch Tales of the Empire here in just a few short days with you, Joey. We did have two viewer comments we wanted to highlight. These are actually from a recent YouTube short that we released to you, and I believe Millie's reaction to the Acolyte trailer. Was that the right or no? Was this the one that we
That was
did
yours and mine.
together? We
Yeah.
did this one together. You
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Millie reacted to the Outlaws trailer, isn't that right?
Correct. Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
yeah. So these comments are from the Acolyte reaction that you and I did together, but the first one is from Epic Z Man, and Epic Z Man says, "Glad to see people excited for this like me. Gonna be so good." I think that was just our raw emotion when we watched the Acolyte trailer. We were like, "Oh," and then after the fact, you read all these things from people who are like, this sucks. This is gonna be, you know,
Very
and I'm
shocking.
and I was like, do we need to watch this again? Like, did I miss
Do
something?
we click the wrong link
Yeah.
or
Yeah. I mean, you get and you slowly like you understand people's frustrations, but at the same time, and not to rehash this because you and I have talked about this on several episodes already. Just that we're gonna give it a chance no matter what it is because it's Star Wars and we love Star Wars. So don't
like
hate on it till it comes out.
yeah, like that Hunters game. I'm gonna play it.
Yeah,
I have no idea if
exactly.
I'm gonna like it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you to Epic Z Man for that comment. We also had a comment from Spy on Sports. What's going on, Spy on Sports? Hope you're doing well. Spy on Sports says, looking forward to this. Miss you guys. Hope to be back on board soon after animation season is over.
He is
Uh,
not
j-
an animation watcher.
yeah, I don't know if we've specifically talked about Spy on Sports being an animation watcher versus a live action watcher before, but I know we've had that conversation about people who, you know, and that's totally fine. Like, there's people out there who are like, I'm just going to watch the live action. I'm not about the animation. I can understand that a little bit. Going into Clone Wars, you're like, "How many episodes of this do I have to watch?" It's
Right.
you know,
Right,
but
exactly.
yeah. Well, we're looking forward to having you back as well, Spy on Sports, with, I guess you'll have to wait a little bit longer because Tales of the Empire comes out in 3 days, but in about a month, the Acolyte will be here, so, it'll be back soon. Last week's episode of the podcast, we asked all of you, will all of the Bad Batch make it off of Mount Tantus? The folks on YouTube were a dead even split at 50-50, with half the people saying, yes, they will, half the people saying, no, they won't. And obviously, we do know the answer to that now, but of course, we'll talk about that more in today's episode. And the folks on X, formerly known as Twitter, answered in the negative light, however, with 58% of voters saying, "No, they will not all make it off Mount Tantus," whereas nearly 42% answered, "Yes, they will make it off Mount Tantus." It's interesting to see the results of these polls after having actually watched the episode, 'cause
Mhm.
I think I was more in the boat of probably the no camp as well,
Oh,
but,
I agree.
you
Me
know,
too.
I think the episode was more or less a lot more of an optimistic ending than I think a lot of people expected, but
Mhm.
we'll get to more of that discussion here in a moment, but thank you to
Yeah,
all those of you who voted.
there were definitely moments that I thought maybe the no was gonna win.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
Even in this episode.
yeah, up until, like, the last 10 or 15 minutes, I was like, Something bad is still gonna happen, surely."
It's called Bad Batch, right?
Yeah.
Something bad.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be on the lookout for this week's poll. Again, something akin to what we teased at the top of the episode. Will we see the Bad Batch again? You can check out this week's poll and vote in it on the YouTube community tab as well as over on X. Man, it feels difficult to even like grasp where to begin to start with the dissection and the review of the finale of season 3.
Yeah, I mean, this was like a movie.
Yeah,
We were watching a movie.
yeah,
So
yeah.
even when I was writing out the notes for this episode, the way it kind of cuts back and forth between between the plot lines. You got Wrecker and Hunter in one area. You got Omega doing her thing. You
Mhm.
got Echo and Emery doing their thing. Hemlock. I mean, so just the way it was all done together. Yeah, it was great. Chef's kiss.
Yeah. I mean, just to give people an idea, kind of what our episode is gonna look like today. Typically, on an episode where we're doing mainly a review of a show like Bad Batch, we've got, like, 20 to 25 screenshots. This episode, I think we had, what, 63, 64 screenshots?
Hmm.
So, we're
Shout
gonna
out to
run.
Gibbo for getting those
Yes.
screenshots together.
Yes, yes. Definitely took much more time than usual, I imagine. But nonetheless, thank you to Gibbo for putting those together, and we're gonna try to make our way through it as succinctly but accurately as we can. So, I guess to begin us off, well, let's take a step back, I guess, before we get into the weeds and maybe talk a little bit about did the episode meet your expectations? That's probably where I want to start with this.
Yeah, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the reaction video. It did for me. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the feeling, amongst most Star Wars fans who have seen the final episode of The Bad Batch. There was we talked about this a little bit during our post-reaction breakdown and thoughts, but I think there was this collective sense of almost a little bit of angst and anxiety, like, "Is the last episode, like, gonna really pay off?" The few final episodes before episode 15 have kind of felt like, okay, but it's not
Mhm.
exactly what we want." Um, I would say episode 15, the finale, felt much, more satisfying, much more conclusive, and this really think just goes to show that if you're given, a lengthier amount of time, I think you can do so much more in terms of plot and storytelling. Like, imagine episode 15 being split in half. I don't think it would be as
Right.
impactful as it was. Which honestly, maybe that's what was the original plan, because I don't know of any other, and maybe the first 2 seasons of Bad Batch were, I'd have to look it up. It seems like these shows are always 16 episodes for each
Absolutely.
season.
Yep. Mhm.
So I don't know maybe if that was the original plan or not or what,
I
but
think so. I think there might have been a Jack Black episode in the middle of all that. So when that happened, was that in Ahsoka? I already forgot. I think that was, or was that in
uh,
Mandalorian? That was in Mandalorian,
oh,
right?
Mando, is it Mando?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when they saw it like not working Mandalorian, they're like, "Sorry, Jack, we can't. We got to take you out of Bad Batch as well." So
I
that's why
I
it's only 15.
Yeah. Really quickly, because we do need to get into our Bad Batch discussion. But when you take a look at something like Bad Batch that's animation and something like Mando or Ahsoka, and you kind of compare how Star Wars is doing this animation versus live action with their various shows, I mean, I feel like it's easier to be critical of the live action shows, but at the same time, it feels like the animated shows don't miss quite as often as the live action shows do. Is that a fair statement, or would you amend it in any way for
I'd have
yourself?
to think about it a little bit more in depth because, I mean, there were definitely moments in maybe season 2 where we were like,
Right.
you know, this wasn't for me. You know, a couple of episodes here and there. So I think I think just because we got off the high of the finale, we could easily say yes, absolutely, animation's a better way to do this. But I mean, animation does lend the opportunity to you stretches your mind a little bit. Like when the other episode when they were rappelling off the ship as it was falling, yeah, that actually won't ever work, because
Right.
if that's in live action, you don't make it. I mean, that's just but because it's an animated, you kind of allow it to happen, right? So, um, I think that I think each of them have their limits, live action versus animated, and we should just accept it as those. Maybe even comparing those is unfair, apples to oranges type of thing. But at the end of it, it's all Star Wars, and we should just be like, yeah, this is the story was. If the story is good, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
There's going to be hits, and there's going to be misses in both mediums. But I think at the end of it, we should just be like, all right, did we enjoy the story? Did we enjoy how it went? And that's
Right.
that's how we measure up against each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty well said. And I definitely enjoyed this story. So, especially episode 15, which I guess, moving into our discussion of the episode itself. Important to note that the episode opens up, and Wrecker is still injured from the previous episode. He's kind of injured throughout the entirety of the duration of this episode, it seemed like. He almost took like a little bit more of a backseat role in the episode, but I think that was somewhat intentional because I think they really wanted to focus in on the Crosshair and the Hunter relationships between Omega, and I think that was indicative with one of the final scenes that we'll get to here in a bit. But there's this also really cool scene towards the beginning of the episode, a discussion between Hemlock and Rampart, and you and I had been talking about sort of what is the character trajectory for Rampart going to be for the past like probably 2, 3, 4 weeks as soon as he came back or was introduced back into the show. I really thought he was gonna end up turning and being like having a change of heart. I
Hmm.
don't know what made me think that. Um,
Hmm.
Nothing could have been further from the truth.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, just
yeah,
the way that remember what I said. Like whoever had captured him, he's going to help the other side. So at the
right.
end, well, actually, at the end, I was a little shocked because the Empire captured him. So I'm like, oh, that he's going to help break him out or something like that. So
Yeah,
that's not the way he went.
right. Yeah, especially after this conversation with Hemlock. I mean, Hemlock is basically degrading him to the point I mean, he says, "What I'm
Mhm.
working on is beyond your understanding, something that's so vital to the Empire, it makes me indispensable, unlike yourself." I mean, he's basically, like, putting his foot on him and, like, squishing him, like,
Right.
"I'm better than you," sort of thing. And somehow Rampart's logic is that as soon as he is freed by, Omega and by Crosshair and by Omega and by Echo, um, that like, "Oh, well, I'm an Empire guy for life, so I'm gonna I'm gonna just stick to my guns literally and, try to take out the data of Nalasays," but nonetheless, a enlightening conversation here between Hemlock and Rampart to kick off the episode and kind of set the scene, so that we know he is now imprisoned, but won't be for long. Shortly after that, Emery then agrees to help Echo get to Omega, and this is the point in the episode where I mean, we were like basically 100% sure Emery was on board with the escape at the end of the last episode. But at this point, it's like, okay, here she is helping Echo, like taking active steps to break the kids out. And she has this great quote. She says, "I was wrong about this place, and I'm trying to do the right thing." Which, as soon as she said it, I was like, that literally just sounds like Omega talking.
Right, yeah.
Feels like Omega planted a little bug in her ear like a couple episodes ago, and it's slowly been kind of working on her. And now she's just, I mean, I was going to make the joke that she's literally just a clone of Omega, but I mean, she
Nice.
literally is a clone of, of Omega. So,
Omega is the inspiration for all of us.
yes, yes.
Who knew?
By the way, can we take, like, a minute to talk about how great of a character progression Omega is? I think there were so many people who early on in the show, were like, "Who is this annoying kid? Like, give me more of the 5 Bad Batch members. Like, gosh, stop being so whiny, Omega." And you
Sorry.
see where she and you see where she ends up in season 3, and you're like, "Wow, is this the same character? She's grown so much. She's got leadership skills, she's got confidence, she's got wisdom, and more importantly, or perhaps most importantly, as we see at the end of the episode, she has courage and bravery." As we kind of see her, really taking on that next step of adulthood.
I feel
Uh,
like that this is the Star Wars arc.
mm.
May I introduce you to Mr. Luke Skywalker? And
Yeah, that's a good point.
wasn't the most chill teenager out there. How about Anakin? Maybe Anakin, a little Anakin. Maybe not the. I mean, especially he was a kid too, so he just like it's working. That whole thing, right? So I think Star Wars has a particular formula, and it seems to be working. And just like that pod racer, and that's what they did with Omega here.
Next time you see a whiny kid in any Star Wars show, just know they're gonna be the hero in about a year or 2 when you're watching the final episode of the finale.
Oh,
The
Ahsoka too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, Ahsoka, like, in the beginning of Clone Wars, the Clone Wars movie, people were so far down on Ahsoka. And now, like, I mean, myself included, she's, like, people's favorite character, arguably, so yeah, it's the model they definitely go by. Will we open up the next Star Wars movie with a like that Dawn of the Jedi movie they're working on? I want the opening 5 minutes to be a dialogue with a really whiny kid. Heard it here first. But yeah, like we were talking about with Omega, she's the leader of this group of kids who she's found within the vault, and they've hatched this plan led by Omega to escape. And so the first part of this is they lure the droid to help out with some sort of issue that's going on. Shortly thereafter, Omega kind of takes that screwdriver looking thing and stabs it right in the back of its circuitry and then reprograms it to attack Dr. Scalder, who walks in. And there was this ominous moment. You mentioned it as we were watching it live. As Dr. Scalder walks in, the droid is just like slowly circling the room. And I was like, I think it's gonna inject her with some
it was
sleeping
such a
stuff.
it was so perfect how they did that because everyone was they were talking and the only thing moving is this droid just going around the backside of Scalder just to take her down. That
Right.
was actually great.
Yeah. It was like something, it's like in sports when they tell you, as a kid, your coach is like, "Don't telegraph your pass." Like, don't let people know it's coming. Like, this droid let Dr. Scalder knew it was coming, and she still didn't do anything about it, so after she's knocked out by the droid, the kids, led by Omega, then escape through the wall in Omega's cell that she had been working on the last episode or two. Escape from Alcatraz, if you will. And then kind of what you alluded to earlier, jumping back and forth between storylines a lot in this episode, especially. We move back to the Bad Batch where Wrecker is continuing to struggle. There's almost the sentiment of like, oh, are we going to lose one of the Bad Batch members? It feels like it might be Wrecker based off of this scene. He's really struggling, not doing well. Is he going to make it? Was there any moment in this scene or at any point in the episode, whether it was Wrecker or Hunter or Echo or Crosshair, where you're like, oh, they're definitely not making it, or
I
did
mean,
you
I think
never?
there was a moment in each of their stories that I'm like, maybe not this one, and it's like that thing where whoever is the last one that
Mhm.
this is going to happen to, let's say if it was Crosshair, like in minute, I don't know, 45 of the episode is like, I got to do this on my own, and he leaves, and you're like, oh, that's the end of that's the end of Crosshair. So that's what I was waiting for. Whoever the last one was going to be, and we'll find out later. It was going to be, Echo was the one that I'm like, oh, he's the last one to have this kind of story, and I'm like, oh, I think we're going to
Yeah.
lose him. But yeah, as we've come to find out, that was not the case.
Yeah. And speaking of Echo, kind of right after this scene, we see Emery bringing Echo, who's still disguised as that trooper, to the vault. And wouldn't you know it, it's just after the kids have escaped, so obviously they're not there. Dr. Scalder is like waking up from being put to sleep by this droid, and Dr. Hemlock, he kind of takes the approach during that scene of like, "This is all Dr. Scalder's fault. She will be reprimanded for this." And it's sort of funny because Dr. Scalder has been the person for the last like 4 or 5 episodes who's like kind of the if Hemlock is the big bad, then she's like the second in command meanie who's always like kind of like the mean school teacher that the kids are always trying to like, get around. She's one of the main villains, and here's, you know,
Right.
Hemlock being like, "This is all your fault."
Right.
Kind of indicative of his character traits, I guess. But so yeah, the kids aren't in the vault by the time Echo and Emery get there. They're navigating through the walls to get to the Zillo Beast, which we obviously knew was going to play some role in the episode based off of the ending of episode 14, the previous episode. Were you surprised at all by the amount or lack thereof that the Zillo Beast played in the escape?
I wasn't too surprised. I mean, because it wasn't just the last episode or the episode before that we even discovered that there was a Zillow Beast in that base. So
That's
there
my
wasn't a
understanding. Yeah.
yeah, there wasn't a lot of build up to that. There was just like, oh, there's a Zillow Beast here, and then
Hmm.
you could see the gears turn in Omega's head. They're like, like, I think I could use that. So I they essentially use the Zillow Beast to, of course she wants to free the beast first of all, first and foremost. But, probably knowing a lot about Zillow Beasts and how they are able to escape and how large they are. I didn't realize how large it was, may I add. Um d- so I think the use of the Zillow Beast was just fine and appropriate for the escape. I wasn't really expecting all of the kids to like jump on it and fly away. That would have been kind of, I
Like
don't know
that.
if campy is the word or a little bit too,
Yeah.
on the nose.
Yeah.
So I think she used it to her advantage, to the kids' advantage, as much as she needed to. And but yeah, it was just like, oh, bye, little beast. Like it was just like it was just gone.
Right. Yeah, so it's wandering the jungles of Tantus somewhere. But the Zilla Beast is able to fight off the troopers. And just to like jump ahead one point in our notes, it ends up escaping and climbing to the top of the base. And there's a moment where, between when it fought the troopers inside and when it bursts outside through that hangar door, there's just a bunch of troopers like standing outside the door who apparently haven't been alerted that this giant Zillo beast has escaped and on the premises. Because you would have thought they like just took it completely by surprise when the Zillo beast burst through the door, thinking, "Oh, there's a picture of it if you're watching the video version of the podcast." Like, "Oh, no one told us that a Zillo beast was escaping right now."
Right.
I thought that was
Yeah,
kind of
and
funny.
and this is when we determined that this is gonna be a little bit more of a brutal episode because I think the first thing this is the I think the Zillow Beast either I think both like
Both, yeah, yeah.
took a chomp out of or like completely swallowed up one of the troopers and also stepped on one of them. So
Yeah.
where you don't normally would see that I can't even think of any time in Bad Batch where it kind of got this brutal. Especially all in one episode. So this was a little bit of a shocker. If that's not the kind of stuff that you like to see, they didn't care. They were going to do it quite a bit in this episode.
It seems like with premieres and finales in animated Star Wars, they're always more willing to do that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas for whatever reason, you feel like you never see that in the 21, 22-minute episodes.
Right.
Then they give you like this big event of an episode, and it's like, well, let's throw some
Yeah.
violence in there, kids.
Yeah. Turn off that stunner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like there was a scene towards the end, not to get ahead of ourselves, where one of the operatives like basically just takes a sword and through the back of someone,
Yeah.
and it, like
Of the
you know,
clone.
it
Through
just
like straight through. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You're like, oh my gosh, I forgot. Are we still watching Bad Batch right now? But um, so meanwhile, while the Zilla Beast is escaping, cutting back to Emery and Echo in the vault, that we talked about a little bit, but um, this is when Hemlock tells Emery, Omega, he says, or she says, Omega, she released the Zillow. And then Emery says back to him, how do you know that? Or no, I'm sorry.
To Echo.
This is
This was to
Echo who
Echo.
says
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And then Echo says, because that's exactly what I would do. I thought that was a great moment. Really, kind of touching back on what we talked about with Omega, um, because you've seen this growth in this character progression, like, to the point where the Bad Batch members can you know, see things that are happening, and they're like, "Oh, Omega's doing that because I would
Yeah.
do that because she's learned it from us, and now she's,
Right. One of
she
us. Yeah.
is one of us." Exactly, yeah. Um, so because, Wrecker has been kind of, down and out and still pretty injured in this episode, Crosshair is ready to infiltrate the base by himself, but the other 2 are like, "No, we're not gonna let you. You can't go by yourself." And there's this quote that said that I believe it's Crosshair who says this. He says, "Clone Force 99 died with tech. We're not that squad anymore." And Hunter responds, "Don't even think of Plan 99." And I actually didn't catch this when we were watching the episode. Like this didn't register with me.
Mm-hmm.
But is Plan that's the same plan that Tech did in the season 2 episode, right? Where he
Right.
where he died?
Essentially, yeah. So he was ready to go all tech about it.
Right. And again, I honestly, if I was to pick any of the Bad Batch members going into the finale who weren't gonna make it, I was most confident Crosshair was not going to.
Right.
And then this was the moment and you mentioned there was one for each character in the episode. There's probably several for Crosshair, um, but especially this one where it was like, "Oh, that's it," there's foreshadowing, he's not gonna make it. But, they kind of talk him down a little bit, especially as they're seeing the Zillo Beast emerge from the base, and Crosshair is like, Echo's handiwork or Omega? And Hunter and
Right.
Wrecker, respond, collectively and together, Omega. So, and this is another example of, the rest of the Bad Batch members recognizing something that is obviously serving as some sort of distraction, and they're like, "Oh, well, that's Omega, like, that's who she is. She's one of us, she understands how to do that now." Um, After the escape of the Zillo Beast, the kids that Omega has escaped with, she tells them that they need to climb to the top of the base where the Zillo escaped. And there's this funny kind of interchange of dialogue where they're talking about, like, a fear of heights. I think it's Jax is his name, the one with the green skin. Um, and he's like, "I'm afraid of heights." And we then they show actually how high it is, and each of us were like, "Ooh, I'm pretty afraid of climbing that too." So they have to climb up to this pretty high spot where the Zillow has escaped to get out of the base. Meanwhile, Hemlock sends air shuttles after the Zillow to lure the Bad Batch back to the base. And the clone commander is like, "But sir, like that'll divide our forces. Like, don't you want him to stay
Mhm.
here? And then that'll like give an opportunity for the Bad Batch to come." And he says something to the effect of, "Exactly, like he wants them to come."
Right.
So effectively, he's splitting his forces so that the Bad Batch will be, I guess, more likely to be lured in. And part of this plan is that he also then activates some operatives, which, you know, during this scene, we were both watching like on the edge of our seat, like, "Ooh, what's about to happen? Like, are these
Mhm.
the Palpatine clones?" At this point, having seen the episode, I think we would say, "Are we sure there ever really were any Palpatine clones yet?" Not sure if this was the room that Palpatine was looking at in that one episode, but nonetheless, it's obvious shortly thereafter that these are operatives that Hemlock is activating, and each one almost resembles a different member of the Bad Batch. Like there's one with a sniper rifle, there's one with a sword that kind of looks like Hunter. There's one with a shield that kind of, is sort of supposed to be Wrecker. There's one I think with the tech one. Isn't at one point in this episode, I feel like there was a really good shot of we were like, wait, is that tech? Or, so each of these
We
operatives,
were just holding on for hope that tech's
yeah,
gonna arrive.
that was our last string of hope. But they've each got these little, like, I don't want to call them inhibitor chips, but these little glowing, colorful things on the side of their helmets to distinguish that they've somehow been infused with M count or something is what we're led to believe. Um, and so there's this face off between they and the Bad Batch, and the Bad Batch are captured. And Crosshair's shooting hand was, I mean, like off screen, but kind of off screen, just like chopped off. Um,
Didn't expect that one either.
yeah, it was like, whoa, okay. And in one way, it's like, I guess that's how they deal with the plot point of how's he going to get rid of his shaky hand.
Like
Um,
literally.
right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But also the other Bad Batch members were then experimented on by Hemlock. So you saw it, I think, with Wrecker and Hunter, who their hands had started to shake. And you made the point during the reaction, the watch through, that Hemlock wears kind of does this with his hand all the time. And he's wearing a glove. Makes you wonder if he has, experimented on himself with this same technology at some point. Did you have any other kind of, I don't know, thoughts on is Hemlock experimenting on himself? Like, what exactly is the shaky
Hemlock
hand thing all about?
Hemlock wants to be a clone. He's actually jealous of all of them. So
Ah,
he wanted to experiment on himself to see if he could become an operative of himself. That's my theory.
the Hemlock
No,
operative.
I think I wish we got a little bit more info on that. Again, and I think I mentioned this earlier. That would have been a nice to have.
Mm,
What is the deal with that? Like just like the operatives, we kind of know exactly who they are now. They're just these, repurposed clones essentially who have passed some tests and some training to be a little bit more, a little bit more of like operatives, actual, like the next level clone troopers, if you will. Excuse me. So they, I think they serve their purpose there. But yeah, going back to what I was saying earlier, yeah, things were getting brutal in this. They chopped off arms. I mean, and chopping off hands and slicing people through with the swords. Yeah, it was just all over the place.
yeah, I also found it interesting that at the end of the episode, Crosshair didn't make the decision to go the Anakin Skywalker or Luke Skywalker route and get a new hand. He just kind of
Ah,
was
that's a good
like,
point. Yeah,
I'm gonna go with the one-handed thing for
I'm
now.
gonna own it.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, as we mentioned, after the face-off, the Bad Batch members are captured. Emery and Echo see the troopers taking away the Bad Batch, kind of right in front of them in the hallway. So this is kind of an indication that I think Echo says something to the effect of, "They'll be all right for now. Let's go take care of the kids and the prisoners, and then we'll come back and help them." So Echo then goes to save the kids, and Emery is planning to fly them off the planet. Echo and Omega, and so then they go to find the rest of them. Uh,
Yeah, and real quick right
yeah,
here,
yeah, yeah.
with and I mentioned this also during the reaction. Normally, whenever Omega's like, "Can I come?" or something to that effect, they're always like, "No, you gotta stay back. You're a child and all this." But Echo did not hesitate in one bit. Did not even. I mean, it wasn't even a question. He was like, "No, I need to go find my brothers," and that was it. And Echo's like, "Yep, let's go find them." So the development again of Omega over the past couple of seasons to see where, where they just said, no, you cannot do anything, for her to now be leading not only these kids, but, pretty much with Echo as well, to help release all of the other clones and especially find her brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, and another great example of Omega's character progression and not just her, but like you mentioned, the trust that others have uh in her, not questioning her like they would have in seasons 1 or 2, like, "Oh, stay back, stay back." Like you said, Echo was like, "All right, let's go." you know? And maybe that's partially because he's not Hunter, but
Yeah.
I feel like Hunter's always the first one. Kind of Crosshair too, but mainly Hunter's always the one to be like, "No, Omega, no." But even, at the end of the episode, and we'll talk about the kind of the epilogue scene, there's a good example of Hunter kinda getting past that as well. So as this is going on, Hemlock is planning to make the operatives out of the Bad Batch, who he's captured and now placed in these little pods where they're being electrocuted and tortured. And um, so then Hemlock, we learn he's going to meet with Tarkin via holocom, and Tarkin's role in this episode, I personally wished it would have been a little bit more. I don't know about you. I heard the name of Tarkin and I was like, "Ooh, ooh," you know? So we get to see him on the holocom at one point. We get to see him in person at the very end of the episode,
Mhm.
kind of after, like, the climax of the episode has already happened. So, I don't know, like, I think this was one example of a character who I was happy to see re-included into the plot of the show before it all kinda wrapped and ended. I was honestly hoping to see more of these characters who, they throw back in and it's like, "Oh my gosh," we get to see, like, what happened with Rex or what happened with Cody
Yeah.
um, or even, like, the bounty hunter thing we mentioned, like Cad Bane, Asajj, Fennec
Yeah,
Shand.
yeah.
I was, more skeptical of the latter 3 of those, but, at least we got a cool Tarkin appearance out of it.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
the inclusion of Tarkin. It gives you your bearings in space. Like, where are we during this time?
Mhm.
I will admit that I sometimes struggle to remember where I am during any animated series, any show. I think I made reference of like the Knights of Ren. That's obviously not the time, we're not at that time yet. So to have somebody, kind of center you, like, this is where you are right now. And it doesn't hate, and personally, I didn't mind the amount of the use of Tarkin here. I think it was pretty appropriate. We just have the little cameo here, and obviously with everything that's going on in the Empire, we needed to know what they were thinking. So bringing him in, and even just because he wasn't Moff Tarkin at this point, Grand Moff Tarkin at this time, he's just Governor
Right.
Tarkin right this. So I think it's really cool to have an idea of like just where we are again in time and space.
Yeah, definitely. Just to kinda get that anchor, so to speak. Um So, I guess going back to Omega and Echo, they break out all the clone prisoners, which also includes Nala Se and Rampart. This is the point in the episode where I was like, okay, Rampart is going to be like fully on board. He was skeptical at first. He got captured by the Empire. He got degraded and basically, like, not actually spit on, but like verbally spit on by Dr. Hemlock, and it's like, all right, now is where he changes and he shows his true colors. And it was like, nope, I'm just gonna try to like take the data, and I don't know, but so before we get to quite that part, that exchange between Nala Se and Rampart, there's this really cool scene. It was a little bit reminiscent of the Andor prison break scene, where the other clones who have escaped choose to help Omega and Echo in their efforts, and it's like, "I will help, I will help." And I made the joke as we were watching, like, imagine being in the room with D. Bradley Baker when he's recording this, because it's all D. Bradley Baker's voice.
Right.
Like, "I will help, I will help, I will help."
Yeah.
Anyways, um, so the plan then is that Nala Se will go to destroy the data banks, and the way that this is depicted, it's this kind of exchange of dialogue between Nala Se and Omega, where Omega wants to go with her, and it's like, "No, Omega, I need to do this."
You're
I'm
you're
trying.
you're talking too fast. You need to go.
Yeah,
You need to slow it down a little bit.
Omega, this is my duty. I feel like I'm watching that sloth from Zootopia every time
Yep,
Nala Se
exactly.
talks. Um, but the important part about that scene and what she's saying, it to me at that moment, it was very apparent Nala Se was not going to make it out of this episode. Um, there was almost this recognition that Omega had that this was gonna be the last time they got to see one another. And so then shortly after that, Rampart follows Nala Se, and we know what ends up happening. But between that scene with the two of them, we learn that Tarkin is going to go to the base to visit Doctor Hemlock because of the escape of the Zilla Beast and everything seemingly going wrong. Tarkin is going to take matters into his own hands and visit in person. So part of the plan that Omega and Echo also devised was that Omega will go through the walls to find the training room where her brothers are, or where they've been captured. So then we cut back to Nala Se, who finds a thermal detonator. I believe it was just like in the backpack of a clone that had been like killed somewhere in the hallway. So she finds this thermal detonator, goes to the data bank, but Rampart finds her in there to find more info on Project Necromancer. And you actually see her activate the thermal detonator. The scene cuts away for like 2 or 3 minutes to a different scene. And then we cut back to them. And the first thing out of Rampart's mouth is, "That's all very interesting information that you shared with
Yeah.
me." Um, or, that he's
That was
read on.
funny.
And I was like, "How long is the timer on that thermal detonator that you learned all about Project Necromancer between the time that Nala Se pushed the button and the time it exploded?" Um, but, it's a very ominous moment too before the cut because it's her pushing a button on a thermal detonator,
Mhm.
being like, "All right, this is the end of Nala
This is it.
Se. Now let's see what happens to Rampart." Um, and so Rampart um, you know, very, I don't know what the word is. I mean, crudely, very, very just matter of fact, kind of indicative of the style of this episode that we were talking about earlier. Just decides to, after he's gained the information about Project Necromancer, just shoots Nala Se. Kind of a sad moment to a character
Mhm.
who, if you think about it, we've known for what, 22 years now, when she first appeared
Yeah.
in Attack of the Clones in I think 2002. So we now know how her character story ends, and immediately we see the thermal detonator drop at the feet of Rampart. And I was certain. I don't know how you felt during that moment, Joey. I was certain that like, oh, he's gonna like dive behind something. He's gonna be like
Mm.
severely injured, but he's gonna make it. Um, nope. There's a massive explosion right at his feet, and we can
Right.
obviously assume that he did not make it out of
I
that.
mean, I think if you asked me before this week, I would have said, yeah, he's gonna dive and like kind of miss the explosion. Nah, no, not this week. He's not making it out. If she's not gonna make it out, neither is he.
Yeah. Yeah, I just the end to the character of Rampart was puzzling for me. I would love to go back and watch the last 3 or 4 minutes, or excuse me, 3 or 4 minutes, 3 or 4 episodes, and kind of see how the inclusion of Rampart feels now that we know how his story ends. Because it felt like they were moving him towards good and then just didn't. And maybe that's a I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones fan, but there's a great character in Game of Thrones, Jamie Lannister, who his whole storyline is like he's a bad guy, right? And then he slowly becomes good, and then at the end of the show, he just decides to be bad again, essentially. And
Right.
that's
Yep. Hmm.
kind of what I felt like
That's a good comparison.
uh, Rampart was in a way. It was like, oh, I could see how they're moving him towards, he has a
Like, why
decision to
bring him
make.
back? Like, why bring him back then?
Right, yeah. Was
Yeah,
it
I
just
feel
like
that.
a means to get to Tantus and and maybe it was just so that we knew what happened to him and he just wasn't like off in some
Yeah.
prison somewhere and we never got to check in with him. Like I'd rather have him in the conclusion of the story than not have him, but yeah, it felt a little bit odd like when you take a step back and look at the overview of it. Um, but to kind of go back to the story of Echo and Omega, while Echo and the other clones caused a distraction with the operatives, Omega frees the Bad Batch, while even though Echo appeared to be captured by the operatives. And this is the moment when In our notes, it says lots capitalized, lots of action between the Bad Batch and the operatives takes place. I forgot about this scene. If you're watching the video version of the podcast, like where this basically spear is just like hurtled right through the stomach of one of the operatives. Another kind of gruesome, rather more violent moment of the final episode. Oh, look, there's another one too. Like, ooh, man, that sword going right through. But yeah, lots of action in this scene. It was tough during the scene, and I think I made mention while we were watching it, Joey. If it weren't for the little like colored circle thingies on the side of the operatives'
Mm.
helmets, I would have been like, "All right, who's fighting who right now?" I was like,
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't exactly tell.
Very dark episode. I like
Yeah.
lighting wise. It was pretty dark.
Yeah, except for like the final 2 or 3 minutes when we're on
Yeah.
Pabu, it was all like squinting and
Yeah.
like
Like oh,
I
getting out of the club at 4 in the morning. Like oh.
I mentioned to you during the episode that when Crosshair had his arm cut off, I thought that was Hunter.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, that's an example, like, I couldn't even see whose arm was getting cut off in the scene, or I guess I didn't realize it, but, um, so while this is all going down, Crosshair and Hunter, then find Hemlock and Omega on the dock in the rain, who, Hemlock has sort of escaped with Omega by handcuffing himself to her, essentially saying, "My fate is your fate is my fate." And so he's handcuffed himself to her. He's gone out with this clone commando onto the dock out in the rain, similar to the one in Rogue One. And there's this moment where I think the very first thing that happens, if I'm remembering the scene correctly, is that Crosshair and Hunter take out the clone commando. Am I
Yeah.
correct
That's
in my
right.
remembering that?
That is
Um,
correct. Yes.
and then there's this realization of Hemlock, like, these are not 2 dudes to mess with. I'm just gonna, like, protect myself, basically take Omega like a hostage situation at gunpoint. Um, and I thought Omega was so, brilliant in this scene
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, here is a kid being, threatened with a gun, and her life is on the line, and at the same time, she's like, "You're not gonna kill me, you need me." Like,
Right.
I don't know how old Omega is, like 13-ish, but, like, what 13-year-old at gunpoint is like, "You're not gonna kill me," you know?
Right. This is a swag.
I
The
was like
swagger.
"She's right, and she knows she's right." And I think in that moment, you almost sensed this fear, of Hemlock, like, "How do I get out of this? I can't
Right.
kill her
Scrambling.
'cause"
You
Yeah,
scrambling.
yeah, exactly, so, um, there's this pretty special moment. It's kind of like a combination of Crosshair overcoming his inability to shoot accurately in most of season 3 because of his hand. This confidence of Omega in Crosshair and Hunter to rescue her when she needs it the most. And they just execute the plan. She takes that almost, what is it, needle looking thing,
Hmm.
and stabs Hemlock in the thigh. He then kind of opens up, and she even intentionally, like, reaches her arm out to try to, like,
To like
prov prov
separate.
yeah, provide the bullseye for Crosshair, so to speak. Separates them via the handcuffs, and Hunter finishes the job, by killing Hemlock with more than 1 blaster bullet, I will add.
Yeah. They made sure of it.
It was what, 3, 4, I wanna say?
Yeah. Yeah, this
Uh,
was this was like death number like 8 of the episode that was just like,
yeah,
wow. You had to
yeah.
go that way.
Have you ever seen that YouTube channel that it's like it watches scenes from movies, and then it, like, counts up the death count of the entirety of the movie or the
Nice.
episode? That's what I feel like this episode needed because it
Yeah,
probably had
isn't that why R2 is like a war criminal? Something like that?
Yeah, yeah. It's somehow there's a statistic somewhere, I think we talked about this on a podcast one time, that statistically, R2-D2 has killed more people in Star Wars than any other person.
Yes. Like tens of thousands, I think even.
Right, yeah. But anyways, like, there's a really sweet reunion between Omega, Hunter, and Crosshair, after Hemlock sort of just plummets to his death. Uh, and you get the sense that, like, wow, are they all gonna make it out of the episode? Like, because
Right.
it was like Up until this point, I think even in this scene, you and I were like, "Surely something bad is still going to happen because this
Right.
feels too happy."
Absolutely.
Um, but nonetheless, I mean, that's more or less how the episode wraps up. They get on their way ready to leave the planet, and, like, literally as they're leaving the planet and they've jumped into hyperspace, Tarkin and the Empire arrive in their star destroyers and, uh, make their way down to Tantus, and, Tarkin, while he's shuttled to the base and he sees what's happened, he learns of Dr. Hemlock's demise, and he says, "All right, from now on, all funding is not going to Project Necromancer anymore. It's going to Project Stardust." Which also begs a little bit of the question, like, if we see Palpatine in episode 9, like the way he was, like decrepit and deformed and supposedly like a misconstrued cloned version of himself. Like, how do we get to that point if at this point everything that Project Necromancer, like all the funding towards it is now going towards the Death Star, you know? I think there's a
Right.
lot of holes within Star Wars that can be filled over time with different stories, but I was thinking
And you're
about
saying
that.
the Emperor, not Tarkin, right? That
Y
cloned.
Yes, yes, the Emperor.
I think
Did
you
I
said.
say
I thought you said Tarkin.
Oh,
Maybe I'm
I
wrong.
if I said Tarkin, I definitely meant Palpatine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, just like, how do we and maybe a lot of that is kind of like that storyline uh, from Mando with, Moff Gideon, like, maybe that will play in somehow, but
Right.
I don't know, like, it just kinda feels like, "Oh, we're done with Project Necromancer? Then how do we
Right.
get to
Yeah.
where we were in episode 9 if all the
I
funds
mean,
are now going to the Death
yeah. Is
Star?"
that the Mandalorian and Grogu
Could be,
movie?
yeah,
You know,
could be,
something around there.
yeah. I guess we won't find out that what's the release date for that? 20 is it 26 or 25?
Mm, 26. Yeah.
Um, anyways, yeah, that we'll hopefully find out, after or we'll hopefully find out that information, here in, I guess, the next 2 years as soon as that film comes out, but Um, we fast forward a little bit in the episode. There's almost like a time jump of, I don't know, a couple days, couple weeks maybe. And there's this conversation between Echo, um, and Emery, and they kind of agree that Echo is going to go to Pantora to help Senator Chuchi to help the clones settle in. Or excuse me, Echo will go to Pantora to help the clones settle in, and Emery will talk to Senator Chuchi about what she has been through because we went through those episodes with her, where she was trying to recruit clones to kind of give them a voice in the Imperial Senate. So meanwhile, Rex and Hunter are going to help find the other kids' families who have been kidnapped by the Empire and reconnect those kids with their families. And there's this conversation where the episode, we thought it was ending off, but there was an epilogue scene, but where the main part of the episode ends off, where the clones, Hunter says to Omega that the clones are free to follow their own paths. Now we get to choose what we want to be. And Omega says, like what? He says, whatever we want, kid, whatever we want.
Hmm.
And it was such a, like, sentimental, sweet moment. There was a pan out of the camera, and they're sitting there under this big tree on Pabu, Wrecker, Batcha, Omega, Hunter, and Crosshair, and you're like, "Man, this
Good
is
ending.
really it. This is
This
really
I was
it."
like, I was like, good ending. Good ending. Right.
Yeah, yeah. The one thing was, in this moment, I was like, I kinda wish we could have seen Echo there too,
Sure.
and obviously Tech, but I mean, this is kinda like the main core of the show and a really sweet moment and kind of like the whole show in its entirety is really about what does it mean what does it mean to be a clone and more largely what does it mean to be a human? And like what rights are, deserve what rights are humans deserving of? Like if a clone like clones should have the same rights as everyone else. Uh I mean, I could get into a whole
Yeah.
bunch of other
And
stuff.
then that's why they brought in. They mentioned Senator Tucci again
Yeah,
because she's a proponent for that
right.
type of work. So who knows? Maybe we'll see an Emery and Tucci type of storyline coming soon.
Yeah, I would love to see any of these characters in any upcoming things. Just really impactful. I think in a way that we didn't expect, and I guess I'll talk a little bit more about that after we discuss the epilogue. But so this scene ends. We're like, "Oh, what a sweet ending! That was awesome!" And then we're like, "But wait, there's more."
My
Um,
favorite.
and the epilogue opens up, and immediately we're like, "Oh, is that older Omega?" And of course it is. I don't know how much time has elapsed, maybe 10, 15, 20 years or something. It feels like this is probably taking place around the time of New Hope, I would say. So if the Bad Batch opens up and Order 66 is taking place, and New Hope is, I don't know, gosh, I'm gonna mess up my Star Wars timeline knowledge, but like, what is it, 16, 17, 18 years after the time of Order 66, roughly? I mean, that would make sense. Omega is probably like in her mid to late 20s here. And so there is a really cool scene with her and Hunter that ends everything off. And she's telling him the rebellion needs pilots more than ever. And so it's like, oh, she's joining the rebellion. She's gonna go be a
Mhm.
pilot. This is awesome. He says, Hunter, you've fought enough. This is my fight. I'm ready. And then Hunter, he has all the faith and all the confidence in her at this point. And he says, "Yeah, I know you are, but I'm not."
Yeah. That's such a
uh,
dad thing to say.
right. And it made me a little bit sad too. Like I don't like Hunter feels so helpless, or not helpless,
Yeah.
but like just like he doesn't
Past his
have
prime.
yeah, he doesn't have a role anymore. I'm like, I
Yeah.
feel bad for him a little bit. He just, it's hard for him to, but he trusts her ultimately. He has faith and he has confidence in her, and he loves her. So, he's like, I know that this is what you need to do. Um and Omega gets on her ship after he says, Omega, if you ever need us, we'll be there. As
I
a
think
great
that's I
great
think it's
parent.
for that's definitely foreshadowing something.
Do you think we're gonna get him again in a future show, is what you're saying?
I mean, if
I,
if there's going to be something in the future with Omega, yeah, I think there's definitely going to be at least one episode or chapter or whatever you want of him coming, trying to come to the rescue for her.
gosh, I hope so. That would be awesome. I would love to see them, especially in live action. And then the last, like, really sweet thing that I noticed, the both of us noticed during the watch through, as she's getting ready to take off on the shuttle, Tech's goggles are sitting on her dashboard. And granted, you got to remember, this is like what, 15 years roughly after the end of the last segment of the episode that we just had. So she's held on to him for this long, and
Unless they're saying, just
he's
kidding.
alive. Yeah, yeah. Oh man, what a bittersweet ending. It's like
Yeah,
so, so I guess peaceful, so loving, so warm-hearted, and at the same time, it's like, we don't get any more of this show. This
but
stinks.
it gives you hope. I think at the end of it, it
Yeah,
gives you hope of what happened with the rest of the crew. With I mean, because she even says, "Take care of Crosshair, take care of Wrecker." So they're
right.
still around,
Yep,
right? They're
yep.
still around. And of course Hunter's still there. And it was a great ending. And much like the Rebels finale, it left it open.
Right.
There's there it may not be in a year, it may not be in 2 years, it may not be in animated form apparently, because who would have thought that that's what we were gonna get? Because what was that? How many years after the Rebels finale did we come up with the Ahsoka?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been like, I wanna say, like, 7 or 8 years or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
So however long that was, that's when. So if this, I'm not saying that's setting the precedent, but kind of, it's
Mhm.
possible now. We're saying it's possible. So an Omega in live action, a Hunter in live action, it really depends on how well received this was. I think Rebels was a force to be reckoned with. I would like to think that Bad Batch was kind of as well.
Mhm.
Kind of looking back at the series overall. But I guess that remains to be seen. We'll see how it, over the next couple of years, how fondly people go and look back at this series. And if this is what they want, maybe Disney, Lucasfilms, Star Wars ends up making more content, more things with Omega.
I certainly hope so, and I mean, I think Star Wars, hopefully Disney understands that there is a pretty big market for animated Star Wars, and it just tends to deliver more often than not, especially even if there's certain episodes that don't quite hit that way. Like I can't think of an animated show that I haven't. I mean, granted, I still need to watch Resistance. That episode is coming someday soon. Um, but of all the animated Star Wars I've seen, I've loved all of them. They don't seem to miss, and there's something about that method of storytelling that I really connect with personally. So hopefully, there's a lot more to come, kind of like with Tales of the Empire coming in just a few days, and hopefully a lot more down the line as well. And oh, and like you said, hopefully we see Omega again, whether it's in animation or in live action. And having said that, we're about 70 minutes in. We've officially gone through the entire 51-minute episode. Not too bad, I guess. I guess if you think about it, we're ahead of pace because normally, if the episode was half as long as this, we would already be at 60 minutes. So,
Yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
So you're welcome.
You're before we get into any last thoughts about Bad Batch or the finale, what would you grade the episode on a scale of 1 to 10?
I really tried to think if there were things that I didn't enjoy or anything about this particular episode, and then I took a step back and I'm like, why am I doing that to myself? Why am
Mm.
I going to go look for things that, oh, I wish this happened, oh, I wish that happened. After the reaction, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I'm sticking with that 10 out of 10 because even going through it with you just now, it really made me feel the feels, those feelings that I had for this crew who I never really knew I wanted. I remember when they first came out with a Bad Batch. I'm like, I guess they're clones. They're the really cool clones. Obviously with Clone Wars, you kind of held on to the Rexes and the Codys and those types of people and the Echo and Fives and everybody. But to introduce like a whole new group, I'm like, I suppose. And then there's Omega. Like I said, she was just like, well, an annoying little kid. I guess I'll get through it. But if not only did those characters really develop, but my love for these characters developed over this time. So yeah, and it all culminated in this last episode. And like I said, I just decided, you know what? I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that to this episode. I'm not gonna do that to this series. I enjoyed it thoroughly, 10 out of 10, and I'll just walk away from
I think that's a really good point, and I feel bad giving it a 9.5
it.
because nothing was wrong about the episode. Like it really drove home the character arcs of Omega, Crosshair, and Hunter in particular in ways that felt very satisfying, um, conclusive, rewarding to go on the journey with those characters. Even the character progression of Emery, being someone who was working for the Empire, and we get this huge reveal about her at the end of season 2, and by the end of season 3, she's helping, these kids and the Bad Batch members escape. From a plot perspective, particularly character progression, I would say it is a 10 out of 10. Gosh, I hate to go 9.5 because the part of me that's like, I
Rampart.
think Rampart, yeah. I mean, Rampart's character progression honestly surprised me a little bit. I don't have an issue with it. I think the fact it was surprising maybe is a positive thing. Um, I think what I mentioned during our instant ratings during our live reaction after we had seen it, the reason I said 9.5 was because while the episode was incredible, I felt very satisfied by it. I certainly enjoyed it. I didn't feel like there was anything in the episode that blew my mind. And I know this is like kind of in contrast to what you just mentioned about grading the episode for what it is and not for what it wasn't. So I feel a little bit guilty.
You're welcome.
But yeah, yeah. Um, man, you got me thinking I should go 10. I don't know. Here's what I'll
Make it a
say.
decision. Just make the decision. Do it.
I'm gonna give kind of a I'm gonna preface my answer with this.
Oh my
If I
God, Ben.
if I was saying just characters and just plot, I would go 10 out of 10. Okay,
Do
I'll
it.
go 10 out of 10.
Just do it.
You convinced me. You
What
convinced
else?
me.
You just said if it was just based on characters and the plot, what other thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. I think you made a really good point, and I think you convinced me with it, is that, yes, we could grade the episode on things that it didn't have that we wish it did. But I don't know if that's fair to the episode and fair to the show. To be honest, I feel like I've done that with lots of the episodes of season 3, especially after the Asajj episode. It's like, well, we're not learning more about the operative. We're not learning more about Asajj. This episode didn't
Hmm.
have what we wanted. Um, but for what this episode was and for what it's worth, I think it did everything incredibly well. And I'll go ahead and say it was a 10 out of 10. You
Let's
know,
go.
for even if it didn't have something that was like mind-blowing reveal, I think you can still have a 10 out of 10 episode even if there's not something that is earth-shattering as a part of it. So, man, that was a long-winded way of saying 10 out of 10. But yeah, I didn't even change it in our show notes up until
Yeah,
like you just changed it just now.
I just changed it. I'm gonna
But
bold it just so people know. All right.
all right, all right. Well, before we get into our viewer question, Joey, I just want to give you a chance to share any last thoughts on the Bad Batch, anything about the show, the finale, whatever you want to say.
It was a journey. This was not a journey that I expected to take to enjoy as much as I did. The fact that I went into the series just thinking, okay, this is more Star Wars. I'm going to enjoy it to some extent, but it may not be for me. And for it to ultimately be for me was a shocker to me. I think always the concept of family and those dynamics, the older brother, the dad, the children. When Star Wars is able to do that, they do it right. I mean, I think of Rebels. I think of now I think of Bad Batch. And when they are able to execute like this, I am all for it. I will be there to see it through and to defend it and be like, y'all gotta watch Bad Batch. Like that's that you guys gotta watch Clone Wars. You guys gotta watch Rebels. I mean, we've talked this time and time again, and this is yet another example of something that I believe was successful in sharing that message of family. And
Mm,
it's just to see it again and for them to do it right again, and also leave it open. This story doesn't have to end here. And that's the great thing about Star Wars is that there are so many avenues where you can bring back an Omega, you can bring back Hunter. They brought back Asajj. I mean, there's always opportunities. So, to see it and the way they did it, it was exciting, and I was glad to enjoy it and go along for this ride.
yeah. I think that was really well said. It was a journey, it was a ride. It was one that at moments we were like, why are we doing these side quests with Sid? Is this journey worth taking? Why are we, why should we care about this like whiny girl? And then you really grow with the characters. You really begin to develop a love and a connection to them. And I think that's what a good show does. And I think
Right.
that's what Star Wars does really well with their animated projects, especially. So, having said all of that, I I would like to think this is not the last we'll see of these characters, but
Same.
um, having said that, I guess that's a great segue right into our viewer question. Will we see the Bad Batch again? That's our question of the week for all of you. Of course, let us know on the weekly polls, whether it be on the YouTube community tab or over on X. Are the characters of Hunter, Crosshair, Wrecker, Omega, Echo, will we see them again in Star Wars, whether it's animation or live action? And if we do see them, how so? How would you like to see them portrayed? In what time era, perhaps, and with what other characters? Let us know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. And oh, it does look like we have some breaking news. The breaking news is that Lego Fortnite has announced a new official collaboration with Star Wars, which will be debuting May the 3rd, it looks like. It says, in this update, the Rebellion and the Galactic Empire will rift into your Lego Fortnite world. The Empire won't be coming in peace, but the rebels will help the rebels survive by building up the rebel village using tools like lightsabers, blasters, and thermal detonators to
uh,
deal with any foes you may encounter. Joey, this is at the avenue of 2 of your favorite things, Lego and Fortnite. How do you feel about this announcement?
So I was happy with the finale of Bad Batch. That was really great. This might take it to a whole new another level. Within 24 hours, Star Wars, what are you doing to me here?
Lots of, fun, exciting announcements. This coming out, I believe, uh, Gibbo said just, like, an hour or 2 ago, perhaps. So, again, on May the 1st, this information becoming available to us, releasing on May the 3rd, it looks like. There's going to be something called a Lego Pass Rebel Adventure that comes with this as well. But we do have a short 2-minute trailer that is going to give us a lot more detailed information that Gibbo has for us as well. So let's go ahead and hop into the Lego Fortnite Star Wars Rebel Adventure cinematic trailer. Let's check it out. I love the campiness of the way Lego
Oh, and they
animates.
own it too.
Yeah.
Not their house. Oh my gosh.
It looks so good.
So Star Destroyer crashes in the distance.
Want to check it out? I like how it's little Lego pieces in the crash.
Yeah.
Looks like they've already set up camp.
It's so cool. Is that a porta potty?
Who's this? Rebellion.
The rebellion's here.
Is he the Mon
Andor
Calamari?
lightsaber. Nice.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, oh, there's
Oh,
more.
there's more. Little blue milk.
Wouldn't be Star Wars without blue milk.
Nice.
So, as someone who hasn't played the Lego Fortnite that came out just what 6 months ago or so, maybe almost a year ago now, how does this fit into kind of the Lego Fortnite piece of
I haven't
that
played a ton of
ecosystem?
it either, but I mean, it's starting to build onto itself with these like new characters, these new buildings they can get. So here we have a screenshot of what looks like the Rebel Adventure pass
Mhm.
that you can unlock. It looks like you do have to unlock it with some V-Bucks as well to get. Can't tell what some of these buildings are, but a lot of the Rebel buildings here. Tatooine Spa and Kitchenette. Oh,
Huh.
okay. So here's a little bit more. That has that Tatooine kind of
Vibe to it,
feel.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it
So
seems
here's some of
like
the building. Mos Eisley, thank you. It is Mos Eisley. Okay. It's the cantina.
huh. So essentially, like this game mode is like the Empire coming invading your world, and you're essentially trying to go to their camps and infiltrating them and take back your world, more or less.
Nice. This looks like to be the Dusty Durr Burger building that you
It's
can
funny.
meet.
So this is actually like a Fortnite location that they've Star Warsified.
Ah, okay.
It's kind of
So this is
fun.
where this is like the Venn diagram of you with your Fortnite and me with my Star Wars and me and
Yeah,
my Lego. That's pretty fun.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Lego,
Right.
Fortnite, and Star Wars. Joey, could you ask for 3 of your more favorite things to be
Right now, yeah, I
together?
have no idea. If you threw Fall Guys in there somehow, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a shot of looks like Lando. Looks like Lando's here now.
It's your
Well,
guy?
that tells me that there's going to be a Lando like a minifig in Star Wars and Fortnite and possibly maybe even the actual game as well. Who knows?
Huh. Dang, and gosh, I mean, there's so much information on this post that we're taking this
Oh,
information from. We'll
there's
make it
so much.
available in the link of the show notes below if you wanna check it out, but there's there's all kinds of fun outfits, including Darth Vader that you get to
Yes.
use. Mandalorian is in there as well. Man, this looks like a pretty cool addition to the world
May
of
3rd.
Lego Fortnite. Oh, less than 48 hours away.
Oh
So
my
it's
gosh.
right around the corner. I love the first week of May so much. It just feels like there's new Star Wars announcements like every
Yes.
hour or two. It's amazing.
Here's a Chewbacca skin with a
I love
Lego.
that.
Yes.
He seems to be kind of the poster child for this introduction of Lego Star Wars Fortnite as well. But
Quintessential
nonetheless,
lightsaber here. Yes. Oh my god. I'm so excited for this. Thank you, Gibbo, for finding this.
check it out on Fortnite in less than 2 days' time. Lego Fortnite Star Wars. Whether you're a Lego fan or a Fortnite fan or a Star Wars fan, there's probably going to be something here for you. So head on over and check it out again in less than 2 days' time. Hard to believe. 80 days. Wait, Gibbo is saying 80 days. It says Star Wars begins May 8th, May 3rd. With
For the
the pass.
pass is 80 days,
So
yeah.
it comes out in 2 days, but the pass comes out in 80 days. I see. So it actually debuts pretty soon, but some of the components of it may not be available. It goes for 80 days. This is some live conversation in the in chat text right now, Gibbo. So it all debuts in 2 days, but it continues for only 80 days, which also begs the question, well, maybe this is gonna be gone in 80 days' time, in which case, even more reason to pick it up as soon as possible. So, uh, yeah, lots to be excited about here. May even have to do a Hoth Hangout live stream for this game as
I love
well. What
how
do
we
you
keep saying that too. We gotta do one. We gotta do one.
eventually? Well, now that we've got like a short period of time between Bad Batch and Acolyte, it could happen.
Oh, that's a good point.
Stay on the lookout for it, everyone. Yeah, lots to be excited there. And on next week's episode of the Hop Hangout podcast, we are, of course, going to be talking about Tales of the Empire because, surprise, it's the first week of May, and May the 4th is 3 days away, and we're getting this amazing new show. Our live reactions to the episodes will become available on the Hop Hangout YouTube channel sometime on Monday. So if you're interested in looking at our live reactions, again, that'll be available Monday, May 6th. I believe that's the right day. Um, and then our podcast breaking down all the episodes will become available 3 days after that on May 9th. And I'm very much looking forward to Tales of the Empire. We talked about it at the top of the episode, but lots to love here. We appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast. As a reminder, if you're not yet subscribed to the video version of the podcast, check us out over on YouTube and subscribe there. Thank you to the 419 of you who are subscribed over to the Hoth Hangout YouTube channel. We appreciate you very much as we get closer and closer to that 500 subscriber milestone. You can contact us via email at hothhangout@gmail.com with your Star Wars related thoughts, questions, or otherwise, and we'd love to showcase them here on the pod. You can find the podcast anywhere you get your pods, including Apple and Spotify. And if you're listening on either of those platforms or any platform that allows you to leave a 5-star review, leave a 5-star review. We would appreciate it very much, and it allows the podcast to be more easily discovered by other Star Wars fans as well. You can find us on the socials, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, or X. We're at Hoth Hangout on each of those. The Hoth Hangout community Discord server is available in the show notes below. Check out that link and see everything that the community Discord server has to offer. And finally, Joey, do you have any last thoughts on Bad Batch, this new Lego Fortnite announcement, Lego Fortnite Star Wars announcement, or anything otherwise related?
I feel like a broken record because we always say this. What a time to be a Star Wars fan and uh, be able to consume all this content, play the video games. We got new video games coming out with Hunters, and now the update to Fortnite. They got the Acolyte coming up very soon. Tales of the Empire. We're still waiting on Skeleton Crew. I mean, there's just so many things that continue to be given to. We're eating good, as the kids would say. And I'm enjoying this time being a Star Wars fan. So, but big ups to everyone, all these Star Wars fans. I hope you guys are enjoying the ride right now, just like we are.
Absolutely. It's a special time to be a Star Wars fan. Want to say a special thank you to Gibbo for producing today's show, video, and assets. And nothing funny this week, just a big, huge, massive thank you for all the work that you've done behind the scenes, whether it be finding that Lego Fortnite Star Wars trailer all the editing that went into yesterday's reaction to the finale of Bad Batch, all the collection of everything related to the podcast notes, including screenshots and whatnot. Much love and big shout out to Gibbo for all the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. We appreciate you a lot, man. And having said all of that, nothing else left to be said except for shout out to George Lucas, shout out to Dave Filoni, shout out to the Bad Batch, a show we all love so very much. What a fantastic journey it was. And looking forward to Tales of the Empire this coming week, Acolyte next month, and all that has to offer with the first week of May as a Star Wars fan. Happy May the 4th to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast. We'll catch you in the next one. And until then, may the force be with you.